Right now, some people are sleeping beside a cooking stove in rooms so small that simply turning around means touching the toilet. Elsewhere, children paddle through water filled with garbage, while thousands of families live beneath a mountain of waste that could catch fire or collapse at any moment in time. Behind the polished image of modern cities are communities where housing, clean water, and personal safety have all become luxuries. In this video, we will enter some of the harshest urban areas in the world, Times 3's places, where people are no longer chasing dreams, but simply trying to survive one day at a time. Subscribe to the channel, press the like button, and leave a comment telling us which city you are watching from. Number 10. Monster Building. Life compressed between concrete. In Quarry Bay, the Monster Building complex stands as a harsh symbol of population pressure and the long housing crisis in Hong Kong. From the shared courtyard looking upward, 5 massive connected blocks rise like a dark gray concrete fortress in the middle of the city. The enormous walls close off the sky, allowing sunlight to fall only in thin streaks time, while the courtyard below always feels cold, dim, and suffocating. Across the walls, thousands of small windows sit tightly packed together, like the cells of a honeycomb, revealing a level of overcrowding that is hard to imagine behind that concrete shell. Inside this complex, tens of thousands of residents live in extremely small apartments, and in some parts of Hong Kong, living spaces are so cramped that they are often called coffin apartments. In rooms measuring only a few dozen square feet, the bedroom, kitchen, and toilet area almost completely lose any clear boundary. Some people have to place their bed right next to the cooking stove, while leaning to one side or taking a few more steps is enough to reach the toilet. Clothes, pots, pans, and personal belongings hang densely from the walls, doors, and ceiling because every small piece of floor space must be used. Out in the corridors, the air is often mixed with the smell of frying oil, dampness, mold, and cleaning chemicals. The sound of televisions, footsteps, and conversations or arguments from neighboring units passes constantly through the thin walls, time with 3s, making quiet almost impossible to find. Living in that kind of space means accepting that privacy is something rare. Every day, people return to rooms that feel like sealed concrete compartments, facing 4 walls at very close range and seeing the sky only through one small window among thousands of others. For the residents, what they lack is not only space, but also light, fresh air, and the feeling of living in a real home. Number 9. Torre de David. From financial symbol to vertical slum. In central Caracas, Torre de David was once expected to become a symbol of Venezuela's financial strength. The structure was designed as a modern office complex where major companies would operate in a city moving toward prosperity. But when the economy fell into crisis, construction stopped, leaving behind a 45-story tower with unfinished concrete frames and large open sections that were never completed. Time 3's. After years of abandonment, more than 3,000 people moved into the building and turned its empty floors into living spaces. Temporary walls were built, homemade electrical wires ran along the corridors, and rooms without doors were divided into sleeping areas, cooking spaces, and shared living areas for entire families. From an unfinished financial center, Torre de David gradually became a massive vertical community in the middle of Caracas. Inside the tower, moving from one place to another became a daily challenge. The building had no working elevators, so residents on the upper floors had to walk up dozens of steep stairways. Many sections had no handrails, guardrails, or protective walls, while the edges of the floors remained completely open to the space outside. A single misplaced step could lead to serious consequences. Time, threes especially, when residents had to carry water, food, and essential supplies to the higher levels. Other dangers came not only from the height. Temporary electrical connections could become overloaded, short-circuit, catch fire, or stop working at any time. Dark corridors and unfinished areas meant that daily life inside the tower always carried major risks. For the residents, each room could provide shelter, but only in exchange for adapting to a structure that had never been designed as a home. Torre de David therefore became a haunting image of contrast, a symbol once meant to represent a wealthy future, but one that ultimately contained the unstable lives of thousands of people during a national crisis. Number 8. Cairo, a neighborhood built on a waste economy. While Ghazipur is terrifying because of a massive mountain of garbage outside the city, Manshiat Nasser is shocking in a different way. This is not an open landfill with temporary shelters at its base, but a densely built brick neighborhood where nearly 1 million people live, among enormous amounts of waste from Cairo. The daily rhythm, work, and income of many families here are directly connected to what the rest of the city throws away. Inside this community, garbage does not remain at collection sites. Trucks carry load after load deep into the narrow streets, then deliver it directly to homes where residents sort everything by hand. Tens of thousands of Zabaleen families collect waste and separate plastic, metal, paper, and organic material throughout the day and night. Living rooms, hallways, and sometimes even areas near sleeping spaces become storage points for bags of waste waiting to be processed. Between the buildings, the gaps are so narrow that air can barely circulate, and sunlight rarely reaches the street below. In many homes, the ground floor is packed with plastic bottles, bags, and recyclable materials. An upper floor may be used to raise pigs with collected food waste, while the family continues eating, resting, and living on the remaining levels. The boundary between home and workplace almost completely disappears. The surrounding air often carries the smell of decomposing waste, dust, smoke, and moisture trapped between tightly packed walls. Flies, mosquitoes, and fine dust gather around sorting areas, turning basic hygiene into a daily and ongoing struggle. For local residents, garbage is both their source of income and something that covers almost every part of their lives. Manshiat Nasser is therefore not only a poor neighborhood in Cairo, but also a place where thousands of families must build their lives inside the waste stream of a major city. Number 7. Makoko, a floating community in the swamps of Lagos. Viewed from above, Makoko stretches across the coastal wetlands of Lagos like a floating maze assembled from thousands of aging metal roofs. Wooden houses stand tightly packed together along narrow waterways, making the entire settlement look like a vast net spread across the surface of the lagoon. Beneath this dense layer of rooftops live tens of thousands of residents who spend more of their daily lives on water than on land. The water surrounding their homes has changed color because household garbage, plastic, waste from open toilets, and other pollutants are released directly into the lagoon. On hot days, the smell rising from the stagnant water enters the houses, clings to clothing, and follows residents throughout the day. The water serves both as a transportation route and as a disposal area for the community, causing the boundary between living space and polluted surroundings to almost disappear. Across Makoko, wooden homes stand on thin bamboo poles that must constantly support the weight of several people while enduring changes in the water level. The area still has almost no roads, reliable clean water system, or official electricity network. As a result, traveling to school, buying and selling goods, transporting food, and visiting neighbors All take place in small dugout canoes. On these boats, children learn from an early age how to balance themselves and paddle through the winding waterways. The sight of a very young child sitting alone on dark water may shock outsiders, but for many families here, it is simply a normal part of daily life. The greatest concern is that children grow up without dependable access to clean water and remain regularly exposed to water that may carry bacteria, parasites, and many other disease-causing organisms. Life in Makoko continues despite the constant shortage of basic services. Residents still build homes, operate markets, send their children to school, and earn a living each day on a fragile foundation where the water both sustains the community and remains a danger directly beneath their feet. Number 6. Ghazipur, the mountain of garbage that never stops burning. On the outskirts of New Delhi, the Ghazipur landfill has long gone far beyond the image of an ordinary waste disposal site. Over several decades, unsorted urban waste has been continuously dumped here, creating a massive mountain that rises more than 200 feet, roughly the height of a 20-story building. The waste covers an area equal to many football fields and stands above nearby neighborhoods like an artificial cliff that can be clearly seen in satellite images. From a distance, the accumulated garbage forms steep, uneven slopes, where new layers of plastic bags and discarded materials are added every day times through the raise. Deep inside the mountain, millions of tons of waste continue to decompose, releasing a foul smell that travels for many miles and contaminating both the air and groundwater around the area. Toxic liquid from the landfill seeps into the soil, while dust and harmful gases are carried by the wind into neighborhoods located beside the site. The greatest danger comes from underground fires that almost never disappear. Organic waste buried deep inside produces large amounts of methane gas. During the intense heat of the Indian summer, the trapped gas can ignite, causing sections of the garbage mountain to burn and release thick columns of black smoke. The smoke contains toxic substances that spread into nearby communities, turning every breath into a continuing health risk, times threes. At the base of the mountain, thousands of poor families still live in temporary shelters and survive by collecting waste. Every morning, they climb the steep slopes to search for plastic, metal, and other materials that can still be sold. The surface beneath their feet is unstable and may slide or collapse at any moment, while pockets of gas inside the mountain create a constant risk of fire and explosion. No one knows how much longer the ground beneath them will remain stable. For local residents, Ghazipur is both a source of income and a danger that remains present every day. They work among hot smoke, the smell of decomposing waste, and the fear that a major fire or landslide could reach the homes below within seconds. Before you leave, make sure to subscribe. Many more remarkable places and stories are still waiting to be explored. Time shits threes. Join our community, and let us continue the journey right now. Number 5. Los Angeles, the divide between wealth and homelessness. In the heart of Los Angeles, Skid Row remains a dark and impossible-to-ignore part of the city's glamorous image. Only a few blocks from office towers, luxury hotels, and financial districts, this area contains one of the largest concentrations of homeless people in the United States. Around 8,000 people live in temporary tents, shopping carts, or directly on the sidewalk, all within a city often seen as a symbol of opportunity and the American dream times threes. Along the streets, blue tarps, worn tents, and cardboard shelters form a maze stretching across several city blocks. Garbage, bottles, and used needles lie on the pavement, while the smell of urine grows stronger under the California sun. Public spaces gradually become sleeping areas, storage spaces, and temporary shelters for people who have nowhere else to go. Daily life here carries constant danger. Street violence, illegal drug activity, and limited access to medical care can trap people in repeating cycles of illness, addiction, and psychological crisis. Infectious diseases, such as tuberculosis and hepatitis, can spread more easily in poor sanitary conditions, while many people with serious mental disorders still do not receive adequate treatment. Throughout the day, the sirens of ambulances, fire engines, and police vehicles echo alongside cries for help, arguments, and personal crises unfolding directly on the street, creating a sense of tension that rarely disappears. What is most shocking is not only the living conditions in Skid Row, but also how close they are to the wealth of Los Angeles. A journey of only a few minutes can take someone from buildings worth billions of dollars to rows of tents without clean water or basic safety. For this reason, Skid Row has become a clear sign of long-standing failures in housing policy, mental health care, and support systems for homeless people in a modern city. Number 4. China. Homes built on shopping mall rooftops. In many Chinese cities, limited land and rising property prices have created an unusual architectural phenomenon. On the rooftops of several large shopping malls that are still in operation, solid houses and multi-story villas have been built as though they were part of an independent neighborhood suspended above the city. From a distance, they look like ordinary homes, but the entire community exists directly above a crowded commercial space. Time-slush ways. Across the rooftops, residents have gardens, lawns, walkways, and fences separating each area. These structures are not temporary shelters, but complete homes, with several floors and private living spaces. Their presence creates a surreal scene where family life unfolds directly above thousands of shoppers every day. Beneath the floors, commercial music from powerful speakers, the sound of crowds, food aromas from restaurants, and heat from the central air conditioning system constantly rise upward. Although several structural layers separate the homes from the shopping area below, residents may still feel light vibrations from the building's technical system's time, 3s, making the environment very different from that of an ordinary neighborhood. Peace, quiet, and a sense of separation are therefore difficult to maintain. In daily life, entering and leaving the area, transporting food, carrying household supplies upstairs, and removing waste all depend on the shopping mall's elevators and internal passageways. When even one part of that system stops working, the lives of the residents above can be affected immediately. These rooftop homes show how cities attempt to use every remaining piece of space when land becomes extremely expensive. They represent both creativity in the use of urban space and the growing housing pressure that is forcing people to live in increasingly unusual environments within crowded city centers. Number 3. The Gaza Strip. Life among ruins and instability. Across this narrow strip of land, neighborhoods in Gaza are covered with broken concrete, twisted steel frames, and roads divided by deep craters. More than 2 million residents live in a densely populated area where movement, access to essential goods, and humanitarian assistance are frequently restricted by prolonged conflict. Within residential areas, many homes have been torn open, exposing bedrooms, stairways, and personal belongings that once formed part of ordinary life. Electricity, water, sanitation, and healthcare systems have suffered severe damage, turning basic needs such as cooking, bathing, and receiving medical treatment into daily challenges. For many families, clean water no longer flows reliably from household faucets. They must wait in crowded lines at distribution points, carrying plastic containers while the available supply may not be enough for drinking, cooking, and personal hygiene. Electricity is also unreliable, forcing hospitals, medical centers, and shelters to depend on fuel and generators that remain in critically short supply. In the sky, The sound of drones, explosions, and repeated fighting keeps the sense of danger present throughout the day and night. Many families are forced to leave their homes again and again, carrying whatever they can save and searching for shelter in schools, temporary tents, or damaged buildings. For the children, childhood is surrounded by dust, loud explosions, loss, and long periods without regular education. They still play among piles of rubble, but every familiar street may contain sharp debris, waste, or other dangerous remains. Life in Gaza is therefore measured through very small but essential tasks. Finding enough water for one day, keeping electricity available for an emergency medical procedure, locating a safe place before nightfall, and protecting the family through one more night. Behind the images of destruction is not only a devastated land, but millions of people struggling to preserve daily life amid instability that has no clear end. Number 2. Kowloon Walled City. The city beyond the reach of law. Although it disappeared in 1993, Kowloon Walled City is still remembered as one of the strangest and most disturbing urban structures ever built. Nearly 50,000 people once lived within an area of only about 6.5 acres, creating a population density that was almost impossible to imagine. Located inside Hong Kong but caught between overlapping systems of authority, the settlement developed into a city within a city, with its own rules and very little outside control. After crossing the entrance, visitors almost completely left daylight behind. Dozens of high-rise buildings stood tightly packed and connected to one another, blocking the sky and turning narrow corridors into a long, dark maze. Beneath low ceilings, water dripped from aging pipes onto damp floors, while electrical wires twisted across the walls and ceilings in a tangled, unorganized network. Directly overhead, aircraft approaching Kai Tak Airport flew so low that the roar of their engines struck the rooftops, shaking the entire neighborhood as intense noise and hot air swept through the streets. Inside the rooms, illegal activities once operated openly, including gambling, drug trafficking, prostitution, unlicensed medical clinics, and food processing workshops with little or no official inspection. Criminal groups held considerable influence, while many activities continued almost entirely beyond the reach of law enforcement. Yet within the darkness, daily life continued in its own way. Residents opened shops, worked, married, and raised children inside rooms that received no sunlight. Children grew up among narrow stairways, machine noise, and constantly damp passageways, yet they still found small spaces where they could study and play. Kowloon Walled City was therefore more than a symbol of urban chaos. It also became a painful example of human adaptability, showing how an entire community struggled to build a life inside a massive concrete structure that was almost completely separated from the outside world. Number 1. Kibera. Life among mud and sewage. Just outside central Nairobi, Kibera appears as an endless sea of rusted metal roofs. While modern avenues and high-rise buildings stand only a few miles away, more than 250,000 people are crowded into a low-lying area that is damp and heavily polluted. Viewed from above, the brown rooftops are packed so tightly together that they almost completely hide the ground, forming a dense settlement with little visible planning. Here, mud, garbage, and narrow passageways are part of everyday life. Inside the settlement, people must move through small alleys that are barely wide enough for a few individuals to pass one another. Many paths also serve as open drainage channels, carrying household wastewater and garbage directly past the entrances of homes. Because toilets are limited, some residents have used plastic bags and thrown them outside, creating the painful term flying toilets. Across the rooftops, Makeshift electrical wires stretch in tangled lines from one home to another. Without a reliable power system, many families depend on temporary connections that increase the risk of electrical failure and fire in an area where homes stand extremely close together. Even a small fire can spread rapidly across several rows of houses before firefighters are able to reach the scene. The greatest problem, however, remains access to clean water. Residents must wait in line with plastic containers, while many improvised water pipes run beside sewage channels and may leak or become contaminated. Unsafe water increases the risk of cholera, typhoid fever, and severe diarrhea, especially among children. Despite these conditions, people in Kibera still open their shops, send their children to school, and find ways to continue daily life beneath roofs that become intensely hot under the sun. Kibera does not only reveal the hardship of a poor community, it also reflects the enormous gap between Nairobi's development and the communities that still lack reliable access to clean water, electricity, and basic sanitation. As the screen slowly moves away from crowded rooftops, polluted waterways, and streets covered with temporary shelters, life in these places continues, as it does every day. People still have to find food, care for their families, and hold on to a small amount of hope under conditions that most of us can barely imagine. Time freezes. These cities reveal more than the darker side of urbanization. They also remind us that taller buildings and more advanced technology mean very little when people are still being left behind. Time. Before you leave, subscribe to the channel, press the like button, and leave a comment telling us which place made the strongest impression on you during today's journey.